written notation was the theory, and a darn good one too, but Guido as a singing teacher wanted to help his choristers in practice. He wanted his pupils to be able to hear in their heads the relative pitch of notes, to develop an instinct for how high or low a given note, A, B, D, G, would be. You see, to sing a tune properly, you have to be able to recognise instantly the distance between two notes. For example, when we sing, "Should all acquaintance be forgot," that first leap, "should all," we know is 4 notes, not 5, "should all," or for that matter, 7, "should all." Now those leaps are called intervals, and Guido had a novel way of remembering them. Here's a clue.
Doe, a deer, a female deer, Ray, a drop of golden sun. Me, a name I call myself, far, a long, long way to run.
It was Guido who invented the do-re-mi singing scale we all so enjoyed in The Sound of Music. It's still in use today as a means of teaching children to sing, just as it was nearly 1,000 years ago when Guido first came up with it.
A deer, a female deer, Ray, a drop of golden sun.
To pick up some more clues about this remarkable, elusive figure and to see his do-re-mi singing scale in action, I visited the small hillside village of Talla, 30 kilometers from Arezzo, where, legend has it, Guido was born. A veritable Guido shrine has been lovingly created, high above the town.
Thank you. Grazie. Piacere.
The vice-mayor, the curator of the museum, the policeman and the town clerk took me up to see their exquisite Guido museum. Talla may not have much scholastic hard evidence for its claim on Guido, but its welcome for the Guido tourist is second to none. Gosh, this is the museum?
Yes, welcome to our little museum.
Thank you. Oh, what's this display here? The museum, though small, isn't short of state-of-the-art lighting wizardry.
In the Middle Age, violin,
Yeah.
you have the guitar, you have the...
Yeah, and the tambourine?
The tambourine.
All
yes,
the parts of the
tambourine,
orchestra.
yes, of course.
Aha! And here is Guido's singing system in handy kit form against the wall. Like Maria in The Sound of Music, Guido taught his choristers a little ditty that he'd made up. His song, Ut queant laxis, wasn't quite as catchy as hers, and his choristers didn't wear lederhosen either, but never mind, the idea was the same. Now, the names ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la are the first syllables of each of the Latin phrases of this memorable hymn. Guido's system was actually called ut-re-mi, not do-re-mi, by the way. But that's another story. I think you'll agree that the phrase ut, a deer, a female deer, doesn't have quite the same ring to it. Now, each of the phrases begins with a different note, and the notes are arranged in a neat ladder from bottom to top, low to high. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and tea, a drink with jam and bread, was added later, in case you're wondering. If I press this handy knob here, a group of monks, forever trapped behind this wall, will sing the whole phrase in Latin. In order to help his singers with the new ut-re-mi system, he even devised a trick whereby each of the notches on the fingers of your hand represented a different note of the scale. It was called the Guidonian hand, a bit like having a pocket calculator with you at all times. In fact, Guido didn't know which of his 3 techniques, lines notation, ut-re-mi, or the curious finger device, would be the most useful. But gradually, all over Christian Europe, it was his 4-lined stave that became universally adopted. By the 12th century, all chant books looked pretty much like this one, with the standard 4 lines, so that anyone, anywhere, with the right training and a bit of gumption could read the tune. The 5th line, that we're familiar with, by the way, was added for other sorts of music in the 14th century. What Guido was trying to do was cut down the learning of the Gregorian chant from 10 years to 1. He himself had been a chorister. Indeed, the people of Talla suggest that he might have begun his life in the church as a young lad in this 10th century settlement, the Badia di Santa Trinita, hidden away deep in the Pratomagno woods high above the town. This is what Guido himself wrote. Therefore, I have decided, with God's help, to write this book in such a way that any intelligent and studious person may learn the chant by means of it. Should anyone doubt that I am telling the truth, let him come to learn and see that small boys can do this under our direction, boys who until now have been beaten for their gross ignorance of the Psalms. Guido's methods certainly revolutionized the teaching of singing, but what he could never have foreseen was that his new lined notation would have one other dramatic effect on the course of Western music, making it truly a big bang. Because it could now be written down, a much more sophisticated variety of music could exist that didn't rely on one person's memory. In other words, Guido paved the way for the emergence of a new, distinct species of musician, composers. Before the advent of notation, European music, like all the others in the world, was basically an improvised form in the hands of skilled performers. After Guido, the responsibility shifted dramatically from the performer to the new breed of specialist composer. Anonymous church musicians had already started experimenting with a primitive form of harmony. But the ability to see the notes laid out graphically on the page vastly accelerated the growth of a technique whereby one combined two voice lines together, two simultaneous tunes, that is, or counterpoint. It took composers about another 200 years to pluck up the courage to write three lines together. Another 150 years later, they could manage four parts, which became something of a standard for the next few centuries. Of course, adventurous composers mixed and matched the parts, so you could have a bit of solo, a bit of two-part, a bit of three-part, a bit of four-part, and so on, all in one piece. Works of great beauty.